This presentation will cover how to build a professional resume to use for a job application. Did you know? An effective resume gets you an interview, not the job. A resume can only take you so far. If you're not able to verbalize your skills and value, then you may not receive the job offer. A resume may be your only chance for a first impression. With this being said, you want to make a good one. You could be great at interviewing and very personable, but without a good resume, you may never have the chance to show off those skills. Two other details you may not know about resumes are: don't use personal pronouns, like I, me, my, or myself. This may be difficult, but it is doable. I will tell you how later on in this presentation. Lastly, resumes are always typed, never handwritten. You must be consistent throughout your resume. You want to use identical margins, no smaller than ½ inch and no larger than 1 inch. Use consistent spacing between items and categories, like your headings and bulleted items. Headings and titles may be bold, italicized, underlined, or capitalized. Use these sparingly. But remember, once you bold one heading, you should bold the rest. This makes your document look neat and show consistency. There is no one font to use in a resume. Just remember to pick a font that is legible and keep the size around 10 to 12 point. To be safe, pick a font that is most frequently used, like Times New Roman or Arial. Always present your qualifications in an honest manner. You should never stretch the truth on your resume or put something on your resume you cannot explain in an interview. Most employers prefer to see one-page resumes. However, if you have many years of experience and lots of relevant information, there are exceptions to this rule. When printing your resume, make sure you have standard size paper or resume paper. Resume paper is a thicker quality paper and portrays a more professional appearance when submitting your resume. You can pick this up at Walmart or any office supply store. To begin your resume, you always want to start off with your name, address, phone number, and email. If you would rather not list your entire address, you can just list your city and state in which you live. You want your name to be bold and in a larger size text so it stands out. I would suggest anywhere from size 16 point to 22 point. This will be the only thing on your resume that isn't in a different size font. What is wrong with the example shown? It's the email address. Fiancé Lover for Life is not exactly a professional email address. If you have an email that does not portray professionalism, you may want to consider changing it. If you choose to put an objective on your resume, it should be short and sweet. It usually consists of one sentence that states the position title and company you're applying to. Your objective should change for each new job you apply for. Here's an example. To leverage customer service skills and experience and gain an expertise in the healthcare industry as clinic manager with Ray Clinic in Christopher, Illinois. An objective is not mandatory to have. If you don't think an objective is necessary or you don't have room for it on your resume, you can choose to leave it off. Summary of qualifications is a summary of your most pertinent attributes and experience for the job you're applying for. A student should choose between an objective and a summary of qualifications. You should not put both on your resume. A summary of qualifications is usually bulleted and references the job description. This isn't something you just make up. It comes directly from the employer's wants and needs. If the employer states in the description that they would want an applicant to have 2 years of management experience, that may be something you want to add to your summary of qualifications. Do you get it? Okay, moving on. Where should the objective or summary of qualifications be located on your resume? It should be the first section on your resume, other than your name and address. Next, you should list education. You should list your education in reverse chronological order, so your most recent education goes first, followed by your least recent. For many of you, your least recent education is high school. If you're planning on obtaining a degree of some kind, either an associate's or bachelor's degree, you can leave your high school education off. If you are attending a college or university, it is known that you have a high school diploma or equivalent, or you wouldn't be attending that school. When listing your college or university, you want to be sure to list all the necessary information. You should list the name of the institution, the degree you will obtain, your major, and date of graduation. You can also list your minors or specialization if you have one. These are more common for four-year institutions, so if you are planning on transferring, you may possess one of these later. Your GPA is not necessary to list unless you're in good standing. You should not list your GPA if it is below a 3.0. And lastly, if you did not graduate from a college or university, you do not have to put that on your resume. Here are some examples of how to write your education on your resume. If you would like to see more examples or have a question that I have not answered, please stop by my office in the administration building at any time. Now we will move on to the work experience section. You can call this section whatever you like, as long as it's appropriate. You can call it professional or relevant experience, or even teaching or automotive experience. You can stick with something simple and call it work history or employment experience. It's really up to you. You want to list your job title, company, city, state, and the dates of employment. Be sure to include the months and the years because the months sometimes add or subtract a lot of time from the experience. Include bulleted phrases describing your job duties. List 2 to 8 bullets per job and begin with action verbs. Don't begin your bullet points with I. Be specific and detailed and use the job description so you know what you're telling them, the information they want to hear. If the job's not relevant, consider having an additional experience section where you simply list the job without describing your responsibilities. Remember to list jobs in reverse chronological order as well and not by importance. The next slide will have examples on what this looks like. Here's an example of a relevant job on a resume. This person made sure to point out some equipment they're familiar with, the numbers of individuals they supervised, and an award won for superior performance. These are the types of things you may want to point out. For example, if you work with children, you may want to tell the ages or grades you work with. If you deal with equipment, tools, or technology, you may want to specify your knowledge with those. This is an example of an additional or volunteer experience section. You would list the job title, the company name, city, state, and dates of employment, but no bullet points this time. This saves a lot of space and room for more information. An awards and honors section is very popular for college students to have. This section can include all academic awards and scholarships, honor societies, and leadership positions. Be sure to list the award or honor, who gave it to you, and the date you received it. If you don't have any awards or honors, you don't have to include the section. If you just have one award, consider combining this section with another one on your resume, like having a section called Memberships and Awards. A skills portion is another popular section to put on your resume. Here are some skills you may want to consider listing. Technical skills are a bonus for every job, so it is always good to list your computer software knowledge, such as Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. List skills in order of importance and include fluency level. For example, you could say advanced in QuickBooks or intermediate in speaking Spanish. Avoid putting a lot of soft skills on your resume, such as detail-oriented, organized, or good at multitasking. Save these skills for the interview or a cover letter and use them to explain your strengths. This is an environment where you can easily prove how you're organized and detail-oriented with examples. When you put these skills on your resume, they're hard to justify sometimes without background information. Here's a list of other sections you can consider having on your resume. If you're going into a field such as nursing or surveying, you definitely want to have a certifications or licensure section. If you have a degree from Red Lake College in which you earned 2 or more certifications, you can also include this section. Relevant training or professional development is appropriate to include if you have attended any conferences, trainings, continuing education, or workshops in your field. If the workshops do not apply to your work or industry, then it's best you leave them off. This category may not be as prominent for college freshmen and sophomores, but it is something to think about as you further your education. Memberships are fairly common for students at any age. Try to stray away from putting memberships you held in high school and focus more on your college participation. Employers want to see that you have been active in your college years. Being a part of a club or professional organization shows commitment. These memberships can be social, academic, or professional. Relevant coursework is used to supplement your work history. Many students add this section if they haven't had a lot of relevant jobs in their field. Pick 4 to 8 classes and bullet point them. Research projects or experience is a section for students in the engineering and sciences field. If you have volunteered in a laboratory or did a major engineering project in school, this would be something to include in this section. Here's a finished resume that we will break down in sections we discussed. Remember, not all resumes have to include every section. Only choose the sections that apply to you. This student, Ren Lake, went to SIU Edwardsville and Ren Lake College. Notice they put their certifications under their education as well. That's okay. Certifications fit in either section. Just make sure you clarify that it is a certificate. The student has also held 2 relevant jobs in the field of engineering. Although the electrical technician is not exactly an engineering job, the student wanted to describe his duties because it is related to the electrical field. This shows that he or she has knowledge with electrical circuits and safety measures learned in a real-world setting. If the student wanted to go into electrical engineering, this job would be a lot of help. Also, notice the use of action verbs for each bullet. The student used past tense action verbs to make it understood these jobs were held in the past, and he or she isn't currently working either of them. If they were currently employed at one of these jobs, they would use present tense action verbs, like assist and maintain. Lastly, the student pointed out some additional jobs they had worked, along with memberships they took part in. The student found these jobs to be not as useful in the field of engineering, so they chose not to describe them with bullet points. However, the student should be able to describe their duties if asked in an interview setting. Many students' resumes will look a lot different than this one. That is because each student will have different experiences and different ways to showcase these experiences. You don't want your resume looking identical to a classmate's. Feel free to be creative with your resume. However, don't go overboard and make sure to still keep it neat and professional looking. The last item to discuss pertaining to your resume is your reference page. Keep the same format for your reference page as your resume. Notice Ren has copy and pasted the same heading that accompanied their resume and is using the same font. Your references will go on a separate page than your resume. You should list 3 to 5 references and list them in the order in which you want them contacted. Be sure to list their name, job title, company they work for, and their phone and email. That concludes this presentation. If you want more resume examples or have specific questions about your resume, feel free to contact me at any time at smithka@rlc.edu or call me at 618-437-5321 extension 1264. I'm located in the Administration Building in room 105. Thanks for listening.